All right, welcome to the Asheville City Council meeting. First, just a couple of housekeeping items. Please, I have to get used to this now that we're in person. Please mute your cell phones and put your dog in the other room. No, I'm just kidding. If you need one, you can get a parking sticker from the sign-up table to park for free in the Civic Center garage. And if you'd like to speak on any item on the agenda, you pass the sign-up table, but if you can go back there at any time during the meeting and sign up to speak on the item if you are so moved to do so. To begin our meeting this evening, first I wanted to take a moment to have a moment of silence. We're thinking about Ukraine tonight, but we're also thinking about human rights abuses and violations that happen all around the world, but are specifically happening and on our minds tonight in Ukraine. So if we could just take a moment of silence for those who are experiencing violence and aggression in Ukraine and around the world. Thank you. And before we, well, actually, for next, why don't we do the Pledge of Allegiance? Please rise. And I'm going to ask Councilwoman Gwen Whistler to make just a couple comments here.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that in the last week, APD officers were involved in 2 incidents in which officers were injured. Thankfully, only minor injuries, but I appreciate all of these officers and all of APD and just wanted to reach out to their families and say we really appreciate their service for and to all the officers.
Thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda. We're going to hear, we have one person signed up to speak tonight under our consent agenda. 2. I'm getting the signal too. Okay. But first, can I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
This is Sage. I'll move.
This Gwen, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And we have a celebratory moment here on our consent agenda, which is item F, a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a donation from the Hawk Creek Community Association for a parking lot at Masters Park. And we have Hawk Creek resident Bernie Aguirre, man, I totally bungled that up, and I even practiced, Arguier, here to say a few words about that incredible donation. Please come to the microphone and talk to us.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, staff, and visitors, my name is Bernard Arguier. It is hard to pronounce. It's even more difficult to spell. But I'm a proud resident of Hawk Creek Valley and Asheville for 30 years. And I'm here to represent the Hawk Creek Community Association tonight because Chris Pelly is not able to attend, and he's president of the association. But there are 3 association board members here tonight. I'd like to at least acknowledge Georgina Miller and Renata Rickers and Barbara Melton. And I think all of you know Barbara. For good or for bad. Thanks for being here to support me. The 9-acre Maple Drive Park, named Masters Park, was purchased back in 2008, and most of you council members, I'm suspecting, weren't around at that time. Maybe the mayor was on council then, I think. But it was a collaboration between the city of Asheville, Buncombe County, and the Hawk Creek Community Association. Each of us put up 1/3 of the purchase price. The community did a fundraising campaign where probably over 100 residents donated money, plus we got some grants to pay our $250,000. So it became a park in 2008. And Masters Park is now part of the city park system. We didn't want to own it, so it wound up being with the city. It's a very passive park. It has a single 1-mile trail that zigzags its way up to the Blue Ridge Parkway and across it to the Mountains to Sea Trail. And it's become quite popular. The park itself is pretty rich and diverse. There's a list and images of over 200 different wildflower species and over 40 different tree species that grow along that route. And you can find that on the Hawk Creek Community Association website. There's a page with the pictures and with the list. So the trail's gotten to be very popular. We estimate right now about 15,000 people a year go up that trail. It's a nice shortcut to get up to the Mountains to Sea Trail. In the winter, when the parkway's closed, they can come to Maple Drive and make their way up to the Mountains to Sea Trail and the parkway. There were parking lot plans in the 2008 planning process, and they're on the drawings for that park, but a parking lot never materialized. So last year, 13 years later, we met with some members of staff and talked about when we could get a parking lot, and we were told 5 more years. And that didn't resonate well with us, so we did what we'd done before. We went out to our community and we tried to raise some money, and we did through private donations from about 80 different residents, most of them residents, a few of them live outside the valley, and 2 grants. So it's that money that we're going to be granting tonight. I've been out there, I live near the park, and seen a dozen cars along narrow Maple Drive. There are a lot of homes beyond the park, so the delivery vehicles and emergency vehicles can't get to those homes when there's people on the shoulder. So we're going to be very glad to see that parking lot, so especially those neighbors who live above the park. So what I want to do now is to let you know that we raised over $60,000. That's what we're granting tonight to the city. The Hawk Creek Community Association is a 501c3, and as a result, this becomes a grant to the city of Asheville from the Community Association. If everything goes according to plans, we're hoping to see a parking lot there by the beginning of summer. I would like to acknowledge and thank 2 city staff people who worked very closely and most helpfully with our community through this whole planning process, which was new to me and new to Chris and most of our board. And that's Pete Wall and Susanna Horton with the Parks and Rec Department. Their diligence and patient guidance helped us a lot, and we're most appreciative of that. So before I retire from this position here, Chris Pelley, who can't be here, asked me to read a short statement to council, and I'm going to read his words. He's a former council member, some of you may know that. But he writes, just as Masters Park collaboration showed the power of City Hall and the community working together on growth and development challenges facing Hawk Creek, tonight we'd like to invite City Council to meet in East Asheville to share your priorities and for you to see and hear firsthand from the residents about what's on their minds. Here are the reasons why. It's been over 10 years since this body has held a meeting, this city council meeting in East Asheville. The last time was August of 2010 at Gross United Methodist Church on Tunnel Road. At that meeting, over 400 residents attended, and the fire marshal had to turn people away. So you were quite popular back then. If you agree to this meeting, I can assure there will likely be another good count. We now have a brand new library in East Asheville, opened less than a year ago, and this new facility has a public meeting room ideal for such a encounter with the council. We believe daily interaction within the community in which you reside will naturally make you more attuned to the needs of your neighbors. With no city council members presently living in East Asheville, hosting a city council meeting will help bring you up to speed on the issues important to the East residents. Lastly, we know COVID has impacted everyone, including the function of city council. With the pandemic hopefully receding, your willingness to host a community meeting can help to jumpstart the reintegration process. Thank you, and I hope you'll give East Asheville the courtesy of your valued time. And I want to also thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. I left some of the latest Hawk Creek Community Association newsletters here for you to see. It has a survey in there from the community of what they think is important. You might find that valuable to get in tune with. So thank you again.
Thank you, and thank you very much to the Hawk Creek Association for the contribution. So we veered outside the normal 3-minute rule so we could have that presentation made around this unique gift. So thank you for doing that. We do have one other person signed up for to speak under the consent agenda, and that is Sagan Thacker. Oh, okay. I will say the sign-up sheet is a little confusing in terms of what you're signing up under. I'll switch you over. All right, we don't have any other speakers signed up to speak under the consent agenda. So with that, council, any other questions, comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Like the delay on get to the speaker, okay. Okay, that concludes the consent agenda, followed by a mass exodus of staff. And right. We don't have any presentations or reports tonight, or public hearings, or unfinished business. So skipping down to new business, we have an unusual item on our agenda under new business, and this is a motion to reconsider a previous vote to deny conditionally zoning multiple properties located at 363 Clingman Avenue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to ask the city attorney to just give a little explanation about what this is and how it's on our agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you mentioned, the application for this rezoning was on the previous council agenda and did receive a final vote to deny the rezoning application 5-2. Typically, rezoning decisions, whether they are approvals or denials, do require a 12-month waiting period before a new application can be submitted for consideration by the council to affect the zoning of that property. However, there are a couple of exceptions to that that allow council to give new consideration inside the 12-year waiting period. The primary one is actually located in Rule 19. It's 19I of the City Council Rules of Procedure, which allow you to specifically reconsider any vote you have previously taken, so long as that is done at the same meeting as the original vote or the next successive meeting. We're still within that next successive meeting, so council does still have the right to reconsider a former vote. Now, it does require 2 steps to that process, so I would ask if this is something that council is going to entertain, it will require a motion in a procedural sense to reconsider the vote. That requires only a simple majority to approve, and then council can proceed with reconsidering the application for rezoning under the standard process.
Okay, thank you. So first, what we'll need is a motion to reconsider the previous vote to deny conditionally zoning multiple properties located at 363 Clingman Avenue, 32 Clingman Avenue, 99999 Clingman Avenue, 99999 Hilliard Avenue, and 99999 Pearl Street from Central Business District to Central Business Expansion District / conditional zone. Do I have such a motion?
This is Sage, I'll motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we're going to go ahead and take a vote on that. If that passes, then we will hear about changes to this application. We will also take anyone who signed up for public comment, and we do have one person signed up for public comment under that portion. So on the motion to reconsider, this is just the motion to reconsider, not on the substance of this application. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so it is now back before us. And can I get, since it's under new business, technically what I need is a motion, and then we're going to hear from Will Palmquist, our newest person in planning. Person in planning. Okay, so do I have a motion to maybe someone's got them.
I'm happy to.
Actually,
Yeah.
somebody please read the
I'll make a
motion. That's not on
motion
my-
for consideration to conditionally zoning multiple properties located at 363 Clingman Avenue, 32 Clingman Avenue, 99999 Clingman Avenue, 99999 Hilliard Avenue, and 99999 Pearl Street from Central Business District to Central Business Expansion District Conditional Zone. Wait.
What?
I thought we needed the motion to proceed.
Hold on, they're just doing a little conferring.
What the clerk's referring to, I believe there's language that discusses the reasonableness of the motion as well as its compliance with the current approved plan.
So do you want staff to go ahead and present the changes first before we hear the motion?
I think because this is not technically a public hearing, this is a matter of new business, we probably should do the motion and then allow that to be made.
Okay, so,
Is there a more extensive motion in our staff?
okay,
Is that what you're
Gwen's got
referring
it.
to?
Hang tight, hold on.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve the conditional zoning request for the property located at 363 Hilliard Avenue from Central Business District CBD to Central Business District Expansion Conditional Zone. And find that the request is reasonable, is in the public interest, is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted plans, and meets the development needs of the community in that the request, one, encourages responsible growth by prioritizing development in areas targeted for growth. Two, increases and diversifies the housing supply by providing more affordable housing options downtown. Three, supports the development of an underutilized site. And four, supports multimodal transportation such as bicycling and walking.
This is Sage. I'll second. Thank you, Gwen.
Okay, now Will Palmquist, our newest planning reviewer, what's your title, Will, please?
I'm an urban planner too.
Urban Planner 2, okay. You have big shoes to fill, Shannon, formerly Shannon, so. All right, go ahead and please proceed. Tell us a little bit about how this is different from the last time. we
Sure.
did this.
So just as a recap, this is a conditional zoning for those properties listed from the CBD district to the CBD expansion conditional zoning district due to the size of the project. It's located downtown in the citywide master plan. It's currently a couple one-story industrial warehouse buildings on the site. And the major differences for this project is that, from last time, is that the percentage of affordable residential dwelling units has increased from 5% to 10% for those making 80% or less of AMI for 20 years. And then half of those units would be accepting housing choice vouchers. Here's some other highlights of the project. And then the conditions slide, if I can skip to that. Has a little more about that. So as I said, 10% of the units will be affordable at or below 80% AMI. That's 18 total, and 9 of those will accept housing choice vouchers. Another additional condition from last time is that the applicant has proposed that the project will comply with any additional traffic mitigation requirements mandated by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. So that's an important one to note. Some other conditions of the project are that the project will provide 10-foot wide sidewalks on both Clingman Avenue, Hilliard Avenue, and Pearl Street. New bike lanes will be installed on Hilliard Avenue and a left turn lane onto Pearl Street. A pedestrian access easement will be provided along the northern boundary of the project where a proposed alley closing is proposed, and the burying of above-ground utility lines that abut the property along Clingman and Hilliard Avenues. There is one technical modification to the project, which is the requirements for the street-level facade openings along Clingman Avenue for building number 1 and Pearl Street for building number 2, and that's a relatively small reduction in that. So staff recommends approval of the project in concurrence with the Planning and Zoning Commission's review of the project, which took place on February 2nd, unanimous vote in that review. And staff finds that the project is compatible with the Living Asheville Comprehensive Plan, consistent with the future land use, and it's also compatible with the Weekend Citizens Master Plan from 2000.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I have a question. I do appreciate the traffic infrastructure for all modes of transportation. One of the things that came up for me around this one, and as we approach the retreat, the opportunity to look at community benefits for conditional zoning projects around situations like this, is whether or not we're setting up these future residents with an opportunity for renewable energy. Or are we leaving them with the situation of not having options for that in the future? So I had requested if it was possible to have solar on this building. And my understanding is that it is not possible. Can we confirm that?
Is that something the applicant might be able to speak to?
Would the applicant like to address that question?
Someone who would know.
Yes, Derek Allen with Allen, Stoll, and Kilborn. Wyatt Stevens couldn't be here tonight, and he's asked us to pick that up. So Amy Cisse and I have worked on it this week with staff. Thank you very much, Brad and other planners and planning staff, Will as well, and some city council members and others. We did specifically run down the solar piece, and the architect had looked at that in terms of the equipment that's already on the roof, in terms of any kind of cost analysis. The benefit just doesn't make any sense to put it on because there's so much already up on the roof. And I'm trying to think about multifamily in town that has solar on it, and I can't think of it, and I think that's probably the reason why.
And I appreciated, I know colleagues had mentioned asking about a green roof, and the answer was we couldn't because of the type of structure. But if it's a cost analysis, I know there's a lot of credits and opportunities to have renewable energy. So this is just something that I'm keeping in mind for this and future developments, is that if we're hamstringing future residents for not having an option for heating and cooling and meeting the needs of their families.
Yeah, and I
It's
think
still a concern for me.
I think it's a good question, and when we're looking at it, the individualized HVAC that's on top of those roofs really limits the ability to put significant amounts of solar panels on. So I think that's more the driver of the amount that you're able to put on for the available benefits. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant while we have the applicant here? Any other?
Just a general comment about that. I'm not surprised at those findings because we've reviewed a lot of the multifamily projects in recent years, and they are always covered with equipment on top. But just a reminder to all of us that we, in some point in the near future, need to update our design guidelines, and that's an opportunity for these kinds of projects in downtown to look at other things, like you can do regenerative chambers underground instead of putting stuff on the roof. And it's a totally different expense. It's not something we could even talk about with this project this far along, but in the future, we could look at guidelines and suggestions that encourage such.
In that same general category, they are going to have charging stations at this. I know there's going to be at least 4 charging stations that are on this property.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have one person signed up to speak under this item, and that is Nina Tovish.
Good evening, Council. 2 quick thoughts. The first about the question of solar, just a quick note that one thing that we could look at in the future with projects of this sort that come with parking lots is that parking lots represent an opportunity to install solar panels, both as shelter for outdoor parked cars and also in median strips and in border areas of parking. So solar doesn't have to go on the roof. It can go in other open areas, and it can be incorporated as part of design planning, especially where you have open space like a parking lot. My other comment has to do with the development of revisiting this project as quickly as council has chosen to do at this time. And I understand that it's within the rules and policies of the council, although in my experience, it's rather unprecedented. I don't think I've seen this happen before. And I'm curious what the public is to make of this rapid turnaround. Is the project improved? I think arguably, yes, it is. My question is, what was the process? What were the nature of conversations that took place? Are there any documentations of those conversations? Just so that the public can have a transparent view into the exchanges that took place between council members and the applicant to understand how this process went forward. So I hope that that's something that you can make available to the public so that we can understand in this unusual procedure what it was that actually transpired in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. And just, we don't have anyone else signed up to speak, and I think that's a fair question. I don't recall us doing this before, and it was a little bit tricky to figure out how to manage it. So with guidance of our legal staff, and the applicant's request, it was requested to put it back on the calendar, or for tonight's agenda by the applicant. And our city attorney, Brad Branham, basically had to determine which way it could be reconsidered by the council. And that communication basically happened between the applicant and the city attorney. And obviously any communication between council and anyone is public record, so if there are any records like that, they can be made available. So that answers that question. We're technically tonight using a rule, a rule under council rules, but also Robert's rule, where a motion to reconsider is made by someone who voted no on the project previously. But we don't use it very well, ever, since I can recall. But that's the choice of this body. There are lots of other legislative bodies that do use it frequently. We just haven't made it a habit of doing it that way here. I hope that helps by way of explanation. Maybe not really. But, all right, so we have a motion to approve and a second. We only had one person signed up to speak under this item, and they have spoken. Is there any other questions or comments before we vote on this item? You're getting, okay. Everybody, lights on. All right, okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Did you get it, Maggie? Okay. Better turn my mic. That concludes this matter. Thank you.
Mayor, just 1 second, just to share with, I think, the last public commenter. I know I did spend a little bit of time with Asheville Citizen Times writing a story about this whole thing, and there hopefully will be some more of a broader explanation. And I'm happy to talk with you later.
Okay, we are all ready to boards and commissions, and I'm going to turn it over to the vice mayor to take over.
All right, thank you. Boards and commissions met this morning. We have the following recommendations for appointment. For African American Heritage Commission, the board is recommending the appointment of Ashley Wilberdine. Can I get a second for that recommendation?
Second.
All right. I don't have to do a roll call vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That does feel good. Okay, for Board of Electrical Examiners, the board recommends moving Rick Sluter from the journeyman seat to electrical contractor seat. He does not have a journeyman card. The clerk's office will re-advertise for the journeyman seat. Can I get, I heard the last.
I'll second.
Well, let me get a motion first. Who second?
Sandra.
All right. The motion is to move Mr. Sluter to the electrical contractor seat, and I have a second from Sandra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, for the Citizen Police Advisory Commission, the committee recommends the appointment of Allison Smith as the Housing Authority representative. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, I won't do a roll call vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the Design Review Committee, as a result of the change in membership guidelines passed on last month, the committee recommends that Kimberly Hunter be moved to the seat, to the at-large seat. She's actually moving from the Downtown Commission seat to the at-large seat. And the committee also recommends that Catherine and Kaya be recommended as the Design Review Committee representatives from the Riverfront Development Commission, and that Ricardo Sejo and Christina Buher be recommended tonight as at the at-large seat. Can I get a second?
Second?
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And for the Historic Resources Commission, the committee recommends the appointment of Shelley Jackson. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and just some more updates from our meeting. We did receive updates on annual reports. Everybody didn't report last time, so we left a little window open for people to report this time, and we have those updates. I recommend to council review those annual reports. A lot of them are making policy recommendations to this body. And we also had an update on the public work sessions on the restructure of the pilot proposal. We have some more information gathering sessions. If anybody in the public is interested in attending, we have one on Wednesday, that's actually tomorrow, at 5 p.m. We have another one on Friday at 11. And if you want to see the prior recordings to that, they are on the project page. And that's all the business for us today.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. Back over to me to complete the Reparations Commission's appointments, and I'm gonna get out all of my notes because I need my notes. Council makes 5 appointments to the Reparations Commission. The County Commission will make their 5 appointments to the commission at a later date. I'm not exactly sure when they're going to do that. Council interviewed all of the applicants already. I believe there were 18 that we interviewed, if I recall correctly. And then we were asked to submit our 5 selections to the city clerk, who compiled them, and I will now read the results. Let me just note that we asked applicants to designate their sort of area of expertise, if you will. Of the 5, we had criminal justice, economic development, education, healthcare, and housing. Those were categories designed in the request for applicants. So folks, when they applied, they told us which category they fell under. So the criminal justice appointment is Dewana Little. The economic development appointment is Dr. Dwight Mullen. The education appointment is Cece Weston. The healthcare appointment is Tamari Macon. And the housing appointment is Joyce Harrison. And now I'm going to read to you the neighborhood appointments. So our legacy neighborhoods selected appointments to the commission, and they are as follows. The Burton Street appointments are Dwayne Barton and MC Yehuda. Our East End Valley Street appointments are Keith Young and Glenda McDowell. Our Heart of Chestnut appointments is Bernard Oliphant and Renata Conyers. Our Shiloh appointments are the famous Norma Baines and Babette Mays. And our South Side appointments are Mildred Nance Carson and Roy Harris. Our Stumptown appointments are Thomas Priester and Kimberly Jones. Our Public Housing Community appointments are Shonda Jackson, Angela Young, and Alicia Ballard. And then we have 2 alternates, Darren Owens and I think it's Shakiki Giles Batten. Hopefully I said all that right. So those folks were appointed by the neighborhoods themselves and will be appointed to the commission. Brenda's nodding at me. I got it all right. Yay. Okay, fantastic. So we thank everyone who applied. Folks that did apply and were not appointed tonight, I believe can still be considered by the county in their process. Once the county is done with their appointment process, we do anticipate that the council will appoint a couple of alternates to the commission, just in case, to make sure, in case anything happens, we have alternates in place as well. All right, that concludes our appointments to the reparations.
Mayor, I don't think you actually took a vote on
Oh,
the appointments.
We had to vote, that's right, so that was a motion. Do I have a
I'll second.
second?
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Okay, I didn't get it all right. Brenda was already nodding.
Go ahead.
I made the motion.
And I seconded it. Gwen.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Any opposed? All right. Now we're done with that. Yay. Maggie, you even wrote me a little note. Need a motion. Okay, anyway. I'll read your notes. Okay. All right, we are to informal discussion and public comment, and we have some folks signed up here to speak. And the first is Jonathan Wainscott, and in conjunction with your speaking moment, we have a proclamation in honor of Floyd McKissick Senior Day, which I will read. Whereas on March 9th, 2022, we came together to honor the 100th birthday of Floyd McKissick Sr., and whereas Floyd McKissick Sr. was a direct descendant of enslaved laborers of the McKissick Plantation in Union, South Carolina, and was born in Asheville, North Carolina. And whereas Floyd McKissick Sr. was raised in Asheville by well-respected parents who weathered the Great Depression and instilled the values of hard work, education, and community engagement in their children. And whereas Floyd McKissick Sr. served as a street crossing guard with the Boy Scouts to help protect young students on South French Broad Avenue. And whereas Floyd McKissick Sr. completed all the education offered to him in Asheville, left in 1939 to attend Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and had his educational pursuit interrupted by World War II. And whereas Floyd McKissick Sr. fought in the European theater and said war, earning the rank of sergeant in the United States Army, honored with a Purple Heart for his injuries sustained in the victory over fascism in Europe. And whereas Floyd McKissick Sr. returned home from the war to complete his bachelor's degree from Morehouse College and his law degree from North Carolina Central Law School, he then became the first Black student to enroll in the University of North Carolina Law School in 1951. Whereas Floyd McKissick Sr. became a national leader in the civil rights movement, becoming the president of the Congress on Racial Equity. And whereas Floyd McKissick was the husband of Evelyn, father of Floyd Jr., Jocelyn, Andre, and Charmaine. Now, therefore, I, Esther Mannheimer, Mayor of the City of Asheville, do proclaim March 9th, 2022 to be declared Floyd McKissick Senior Day in the City of Asheville, and encourage all citizens to mark the occasion appropriate to celebrate Floyd McKissick Senior's 100th birthday. Yes.
Yay.
Oh, yes. Yay.
Thanks, Mayor Mannheimer, for reading that proclamation. And thanks to Darren Waters, who inspired me to look into Asheville's history a little bit more. And this is the man. This is Floyd McKissick Sr. As you read most of the bullet points of his life, he was the direct descendant of enslaved laborers on the Union County, South Carolina cotton plantation. His great-grandfather was Thomas McKissick. And it's not changing on the screen, Maggie. No, I mean, it's good right there. That's all right.
IT guy, Ben, will help with
Ben.
Oh.
All right, so, thanks, Ben.
Ben's the best.
Floyd McKissick Sr.'s great-grandfather was Thomas McKissick, and he was owned by this person. This is Rhoda McKissick, and she and her husband, Joseph, owned Thomas McKissick. His great-grandson, Floyd McKissick Sr., who, as Mayor mentioned, was the first Black student to enroll in UNC Chapel Hill's Law School in 1951. He became quite a leader in the civil rights movement. Whoops, not her. There he is with Martin Luther King, who was leader, obviously, of the NAACP. Stokely Carmichael to the left, who was the leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. In 1966, James Meredith was shot on the March Against Fear, and these leaders stood up to continue the march from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi. And Floyd McKissick Sr. was raised over in the East End neighborhood. He went from Ridge Street to the highways of Mississippi to fight for the rights of everybody. Oops. And so thank you for having this day for us, and that tomorrow is his 100th birthday. I'd also like to mention that March 9th is DeWanna Little's birthday as well, so it's a great coming together, and thanks, Mayor, for reading that for us tonight.
Thank you. We should start having a name for these, like educational moments, yeah, or history moments, my history moments. All right, the next person signed up to speak is Sagan Thacker.
Hello, hello. Okay. I wasn't really planning on saying anything initially, but I just wanted to say that as the housing crisis in Asheville grows even worse and more people are forced out of their homes and those without homes are oppressed and harmed even more by the system in place. I want to just thank all the leftist organizations who are working very hard to counteract the harms done to everyone by local government, and I hope that all of you will take a look at what everyone's doing and really think about who is doing what harm here or not. That's all I have to say. Bye.
Thank you. The next person signed up to speak is Vicki Meath.
Good evening, Council. I'm Vicki Meath. I live in West Asheville, and I'm the Director of Just Economics. It's good to see you all. I'm here tonight as you are talking about the budget and as you're about to head into the retreat to encourage you to continue to uphold the city's commitment to pay a living wage. This commitment is 15 years old this year, and it has been a commitment that has been extended and renewed year after year. Just Economics' living wage rate is based on the cost of housing, and this year it is $17.70. This is based on a simple formula that someone living in the county could afford to, that was working full-time, could afford 3 times their monthly rent, which is a common practice by landlords in this community. And that is, that's based on fair market rent, which is based, beyond just the city of Asheville and throughout the county. We know that these are challenging times for local governments, local employers, but these are also extremely challenging times for workers and people that are seeking affordable housing. The cost of living has spiraled out of control for so many in our communities, particularly housing, and our living wage rate does not even get to 80% area median income. So many of the housing that we're subsidizing is not even reaching people that are making $17.70, let alone people underneath that. So we believe that the people who work for the city of Asheville should be able to live within the city or at least near the city. We hope that the city will continue the commitment upheld by many councils before you and the same commitment that hundreds of businesses have made. We believe a recommitment to living wages is helpful in obtaining and retaining staff while also upholding your values of equity and fairness. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next person signed up to speak is Doug Brown.
Honorable mayors, city council members. 2 weeks ago, I was here, and the Del Rey project was rejected, and that was disappointing. And to come here tonight, 2 weeks later, and find that it has been approved and turned around, this is encouraging. 2 weeks ago, I was here, and the Blue Mountain Ridge rickshaw enterprise was rejected, and if papers are to be believed, I believe that's been reversed, and they have been given a license so they can start their business here. Isn't that right?
They're going to go it on their own without a license.
They're going to go out on their own, but they're allowed to do it, and that was discouraging 2 weeks ago. It's encouraging now. To me, that speaks to common sense and reason, and this is something we need in our city, and I applaud the city council for these things. As I look and wonder, with these 2 weeks change and how these things have changed, myself, I say, I don't want to believe that this is because an election is coming up, but I want to believe it's because residents are waking up, standing up, and speaking up. And there's another important issue coming up with the city council, and that's McKissick Avenue, as you all know, where 4 lanes are being reduced to 2 with a middle turn lane and so forth. I did go to that Department of Transportation meeting, and I looked around at the graphs and the charts and everything to understand the benefits and why we were taking this measure on that busy intersection or busy road. And one of I think it's the Transit Advisory Commissioner person, came up and asked me, he said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, I'm finding, there's 21,000 cars a day that go down that road, and I'm not sure that the bicyclists are going to be using their lanes as much when it's raining, when it's nighttime, those cold months and the hot months and so forth. And she said to me, well, think of it this way. Merriman's a very busy avenue next to a sidewalk, and it is. And she said, think of that bike lane as a buffer between the traffic and those pedestrians on the road. And the icing on the cake is that the bikers get to use it also. Well, I thought about that and I walked away, and as I've gone up and down that road, I do not see many pedestrians there. In fact, I think most people that take walks take them in neighborhoods. And I'm pretty sure that if you would look at I think it's 7 fatalities over the last 10 years, that I doubt there are any of those fatalities came from a car driving up on a sidewalk and taking out a pedestrian. Probably 0. And to me, that doesn't make sense then. It doesn't sound like reason to be taking 21,000 cars a day and saying, okay, we're gonna just put you into 2 lanes now and let bicyclists and pedestrians that aren't really affected that much. And so I'd urge the city council not to listen to that kind of advice, to stay with your common sense, stay with your reason, because we need those 4 lanes open. And we don't want to come back here 2 weeks later and have to change that decision because the residents are speaking out. So I do want to thank the residents for waking up. Doug Brown, thank you, City Council.
Next is Will Harlan.
Hi, City Council. My name is Will Harlan. I'm a senior scientist with the Center for Biological Diversity and also the lead organizer of Friends of Big Ivy and a coalition of over 100 local businesses and organizations. And first, I want to thank Asheville City Council. You all have been champions for the Craggy National Scenic Area, the Big Ivy section of Pisgah National Forest that is closest to Asheville. It's only 15 miles from downtown Asheville. It is our old-growth forest, and it's right in our backyard. Since 2017, this council has been champions of that section of forest. You have passed a unanimous bipartisan resolution supporting the protection of all 16,000 acres of craggy Big Ivy, and you've reaffirmed that resolution as this forest plan is unfolded. Last month, the U.S. Forest Service finalized its forest plan. It's taken 8 years for them to write this. They just released it, and it does not honor Asheville City Council's resolution. It opens over 4,000 acres of the craggy Big Ivy proposed National Scenic Area to its highest priority logging. This includes the headwaters of the Ivy River. This includes the 4,000 acres of old-growth forests. It includes the 2 most popular trails along the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Mountains to Sea Trail and the Snowball Trail. What we're trying to protect are those incredible panoramic views from Craggy Gardens, which are an economic engine one of the most popular spots, certainly the most photographed spot along the Blue Ridge Parkway. Asheville City Council has been proactive in protecting this part of the Blue Ridge Parkway and Pisgah National Forest by passing a resolution. Now we're asking you to take the next step, which is what Buncombe County Commission has just done last week. And that is to object to the forest plan for failing to live up to the resolution that you have passed and affirmed. That would simply mean filing an objection through an online portal. It would not require any massive work from you or your attorneys, but it would send a clear signal to the Forest Service that you passed a resolution, you listened to the people, the hundreds of folks who have turned out to commission meetings, to city council meetings, to support this protected area, the 10,000 people who have commented on it, the 150 organizations and local businesses that support it. You would be standing up once again for them and saying, we want to protect Asheville's most important forest. We want to protect this old growth, this watershed, these scenic views, and all you would have to do is follow the lead of Buncombe County and object to this forest plan. Happy to provide more information. Thanks.
If you could email all of us, but I think you told me earlier that the deadline for the objection would be the March 22nd.
That's right.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know sometimes I'm like, oh, go ahead. Oh, no, it's me. Last speaker to sign up is Daniel Young. Sorry, it's the dang form. Okay. You hit both boxes. I'm sorry.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I got a few questions. One concerning the housing issue. DVU is about to be tore down and the residents is gonna be removed. And we know the residents are not gonna be able to go back to DVU. So what's gonna be done to those residents who's not going back to DVU once it's rebuilt like you did Lee Walker Heights? Majority of that neighborhood was broken up. I think 50% of them was put back in Lee Walker Heights. And what's gonna be done with the rest of them? We don't need 80% of the 20% of the residents. We need the whole 80. Our community has been living in Hillcrest and rat-infested apartments. HUD is not doing their job. So what are y'all gonna do your job? We putting all the energy in homeless, but what about the people in housing? Been treating like homeless. What about the brothers that's coming home from prison that ain't gonna be able to live in housing because they got a felony? Those people that just left, they didn't address that. They want to make money and destroy our community, but they ain't addressing this issue. Y'all worrying about the homeless. What about the people with felonies? What about the mothers with felonies? What are we gonna do? Are we gonna keep playing these games? That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you. Nina Tovish.
Thank you, Council. I'd just like to give you a little bit of feedback from my experience in the restructuring of boards and commissions workshop that I attended yesterday, I think it was. The first thing that I'd like to note is that my experience from my fellow participants in the comments that they had was that I detected zero enthusiasm for the proposed changes. Really didn't see any feedback that suggested that there was anyone committed to making the proposed changes happen and that were enthusiastic about the outlook of it. And I wondered whether in the process of putting this proposal together, staff under the direction of council might not have done an extensive series of surveys of the people who are already participating on boards and councils to get their feedback about specifically what complaints they had and why. And also there's the challenge of using a COVID pandemic period as a baseline for deciding that things are really very dysfunctional, because there was a massive disruption and it certainly could not be described as business as usual. I'd also like to make the proposal that restructuring boards and commissions take as its template the City of Asheville organization chart. That's broken down into topics like police, fire, finance, communication and public engagement, development services, public works, community and economic development, transportation, planning and urban design, water resources, and so forth. It seems to me that it would make sense to restructure boards and commissions so that there's more of a one-to-one correspondence between those areas of focus and the activities of the boards and commissions. If this organization is working for the city, it would also mean that each one of those boards and commissions would have a dedicated city staff unit that could be in support of them. We currently have 20+ boards. This would bring it down to more like 12 or 15, because there may be some additional ones that don't map directly to city functions that the public and/or council might see benefit in. Anyway, I hope in future, when you're producing a pilot, that you will have more extensive conversations in advance of making a proposal with the people who are most likely to be affected by it. Thank you for your attention this evening.
Thank you. That is the last person we have signed up to speak. Council, unless there's things.
I know, no, and we're not really here to reply to public comment, but I do want you to know, for those listening at home, that the planning around D Review, as I understand it, is that there will be new units created for residents to move into before any are taken away. So I don't think there is displacement built into the model, just a heads up.
And interestingly, on the D Review that you mentioned, D Review redevelopment, there's not a partnership between the city and the housing authority on that redevelopment, which I think is unfortunate, but there's not. The housing authority is going independently in the redevelopment of D Review, and as it was mentioned, my understanding of the project is that they're going to build the new before and then allow people to move before tearing down the old, unlike the process used at Lee Walker. The city, though, has purchased property in that same area and is looking to do our own affordable housing development out there on separate land, but in the same vicinity. So watch for more on that. But just, I know it's kind of confusing when you're looking at all the different projects going on, trying to figure out who's doing it, who's taking the lead, So I appreciate that's difficult to nail down. Council, any other questions, comments, announcements before we adjourn? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.